I'm good. Welcome. Sorry for the slight delay. We had some technical difficulties. Welcome to Theater 101. This is our webinar series here at Rosedale Community Players. This is our auditions webinar. My name is Kenneth Franzel. I am an actor and a director with Rosedale Community Players. I'm also the vice president. I'd like to start off by thanking everybody for being here today and watching and joining us. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat and we'll try to get to them a little bit later. We're also going to do a follow-up podcast on our script to stage podcast network. So we'll answer some questions there. But before we get into all of that, I'd like to introduce my amazing co-host today. She is a dear friend of mine. She is an incredible talent. I have worked with her a couple of times now, and I'm just the biggest fan of hers. She is a director. She is an author. She is an amazing actress. I'd like to bring in Meg Berger. Welcome, Meg.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. I appreciate that.
It is an honor and a pleasure. I started doing these last year, and this is our second go around with this. And you were somebody that I've wanted to have bring into one of these ever since. So I'm glad we finally got to make this work.
Same.
Now, Meg is not only is Meg a very talented actor, director, and author, she is actually the director of RCP's fall show, Tracy Jones. Meg,
Yes.
before we get started, if you want to give a really quick little plug for Tracy Jones, give us a little brief synopsis of what it's about. And I think maybe there's some auditions that maybe might play into what we're doing here today.
There are. Actually, we have our auditions coming up in a week from yesterday. Auditions are Monday and Tuesday. I want to say the exact date. So I'm pulling up my calendar because the 21st and the 22nd at 7 p.m. at Rosedale Community Players. And then callbacks will be Thursday, the 24th. And Tracy
Excellent.
Jones is a lovely show by Stephen Kaplan, and it has a small cast, small but mighty. I'm looking for four women and one man, and it's about a Tracy Jones who decides to throw a party and invite all of the Tracy Joneses in the country to come to the party, and sort of what happens from there.
Wonderful. Well, we're looking forward to it. I think it's a great show, and I think I think I speak for everybody within RCP family. We're really excited to see what you do with it. So let's jump into it, okay? All right.
Yes.
Well, whether you're looking at your first audition or your 50th or 500th, we have something for you tonight. So let's go ahead and jump on in. Theater 101 is part of the Rosedale Community Players effort to support and grow local artists. If you want to know more about our upcoming shows, auditions, and future workshops, head to that website right there, rosedaleCommunityPlayers.com. Let's talk about what we can expect today. We're gonna take a look at some back-to-back basics, break down how auditions actually work. We're gonna give some tips and some insight to newcomers and veterans as well, and some perspectives from both actors and directors. And we will be continuing the conversation then again on our podcast. So if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat. Even later on, we can still go on and answer them. So we don't want to overwhelm you with information. The goal of Theater 101, just in general, and especially this workshop, is to demystify auditions and make them feel more approachable. So let's talk about what auditions really are. Auditions are a conversation, not a test. They are an invitation to collaborate. They are a chance to show your voice, and they are a moment to connect. Meg, when you think of what an audition really is and breaks down to, where do you how would you describe it as well?
So an audition, I would say, is like, especially if there are callbacks, like a job interview with maybe less stakes because your livelihood isn't on, your financial livelihood isn't on the line. But just like in a job interview, no one expects you to know every absolute thing right off the bat. They don't expect you to have an encyclopedic knowledge of the company. Same goes for auditions. Put your best
Excellent.
foot forward.
All right, and yeah, exactly. I wholly agree. You're trying to make an impression and you have an opportunity at an opportunity. And that's such a key thing, that, you know, it's, you never know what can happen from it, whether it be that show in particular or a show down the line. You're always on, you know, at an audition. And so it's an important part of the process. Now, let's discuss what auditions are not. It's not about being perfect. There's no right or wrong way to read, and it's not about being judged. It's about offering a glimpse into your potential. We're looking for possibilities from the director's side of things. We're looking for possibilities, not direction, not perfection. And from an acting side of thing, you're looking for a way to just set yourself apart, which I think leads us into the actor's point of view. When you are an actor and you're walking into an audition, you can only control so much, right? So what are the things that you can control? What do you have control over? You have control over your preparation. You have control over your attitude. You have control over the choices that you're going to make in this performance, and you have control of your presence in the room. It's important to balance all of those things. You don't have to make a splash. You just have to make yourself noticed. You're never going to be perfect. When I direct a show, just in general, I always say to my actors, like, you're never going to be perfect. People mess up on Broadway every night, and that's their job. So you're never going to be perfect. And so as an actor, you have to go in with the mentality of, what can I control? What am I in control of? And your preparation, knowing a little bit about the script, knowing a little bit about potentially even the directors. The beautiful thing about community theater is everything's out there for the most part. You know who the director is going to be. You know who some of the people that work there are going to be. If you've been around, or if you've just, partaken in an audition with them before. So you have an idea of what to expect. You have an idea of where that audition is going to be. You know what the room's going to look like. The biggest thing, I think, is attitude. As an actor, I don't want the directors to think that I'm disinterested. I don't want them to think that I am better than them. I see so many people who come in, and they act like they're better than me. And I just think to myself, you're not giving yourself the attitude that those people may want to see. And then the choices that you make, I think, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this as well, Meg, but like, I love when I'm in an audition and I don't go first. Like, I really love going like in the middle, because it gives me a chance. Sometimes if you're in the room with everybody else, you get to see what they're doing, right? So you can see if they're playing this scene and it's sad, and how are they playing it sad? Are they playing it, more often than not, most actors are going to default to emotionally sad, right? But like, sometimes I'll look at it and go, well, maybe my character's angry. And so I'm going to come at this from an angry point of view, and I can see what other people are going to do. I'm in control of the choices I make. I don't have to follow the crowd. I don't want to follow the crowd as an actor. Like, my whole job is to stand out. So why would I do it the way that everybody else is doing it? And just that approach, that mentality of, just setting myself apart and finding a way to just pique that director's interest. Because I truly believe that as an actor, and I've seen it on my own in when I'm directing and running auditions, as an actor, in the room, you see people are like, oh, what did he just do? And it stands out. And I think a good director, I truly believe a good director is going to go, well, that's not what I want from that role, but I like that they've thought of something, trying to bring something different to it. When you're in those auditions, you see the same thing over and over again. How do I stand out? And I can control that, right? I can control how I stand out by just giving it something else. I worked with a gentleman years and years ago who, anytime he went into an audition, he used an accent. So he would just be like, oh, today I'm going to be British, and it'd be like he would throw an accent in, and watching. I'd been in the room a couple of times when he was auditioning, and seeing the directors scramble, like, did I is this character supposed to be British? Am I seeing the right thing? So you can control all those choices. That's the biggest, your attitude. I think your attitude and your choices are the biggest aspect of what you can and can't control. So let's talk about some tips that we can for an actor when you're auditioning. Be authentic through your character. Don't try to be different, but don't try to be too much. If your character is an 1800s newsboy, don't give it an aggressive 2000s hipster vibe. You know what I mean? If you're lucky enough to get direction, take it and run with it. More often than not, as an actor, that's your sign that, like, okay, they see something in me. Now I have to go and take that, and they want to see if I can take direction. They want to see something different from me. So take that direction, be open about it. Your choice may be brilliant and they may love it, but sometimes they just want to see something different, right? Ground yourself, your voice, your body, your breath. Take calm, deep breaths. It can be very hard to not get nervous and frustrated. So by grounding yourself, by keeping yourself level, you're gonna allow yourself to walk on that stage and give a solid, steady performance, and enter and exit like a pro. Say hello, introduce yourself, say thank you. If they have questions, active listening when they're talking to you and asking questions is a huge thing. Carrying yourself like a professional, whether it's a community theater, whether it's a professional theater, whether you're auditioning for a Broadway show, enter and exit that room like you are a professional and this is your job. And you will make a splash. So let's talk about the director's point of view. And Meg, I'm going to turn this portion over to you, and just to talk about what you see from the director's point of view.
Okay. So what I would like to start with is kind of tagging in on what Ken said. Just at the end, a little actors thing, and I'm going to throw this in because it was a tip I was given by a director. Her name is Sarah Hawkins Rusk. She's in the area. She's lovely. She's a fantastic director. And one of the things she always told me after an audition, no matter how well it went, no matter if it was the best audition you've ever had or the worst, that you get yourself a little treat afterwards. And I think that it is very important to give yourself grace, regardless of how your audition went as an actor, that you accept that no matter at this point, it's out of your hands, get yourself a little treat because you earned it. Because not very many people would do what we do, and it's crazy. So I'm going to start with on the director's end. As I said, I am directing Tracy Jones, which opens in October. So what do directors look for? The first thing, do you fit the world of the play? And that is honestly sometimes, as an actor, you can remind yourself of this, that sometimes you are not what the director envisioned. And that does not mean that there was anything wrong with your acting, there was anything wrong with any of it, but that it is not what the world of that play looks like. So there's nothing you could have done about that. And that is specifically what directors are looking for. They have to have, for example, in Tracy Jones, our Jilly is a 19-year-old waitress, or server, I should say. And if you are 45, and I don't care how good of a 45-year-old you are, you're not going to be able to play 19. So that's just kind of like, do you fit the world of the play? The second thing, can you collaborate? I believe an audition, just like a job interview, and maybe how you interact with people in life, that it starts when you walk in the door. You are interacting, especially, I'm going to speak on the community theater aspect of it because that's what I know, and that's kind of what we're talking about here. But literally every single person that you are interacting with from when you walk in that door is a volunteer. No one is getting paid to do this. You aren't getting paid to do this. In fact, you're paying to do this 9 times out of 10. So what that means is coming in with a diva attitude, I don't even want to say that because I think that's a little sexist, but coming in with an attitude automatically will get to the director. The person who's signing you in is probably the producer or just an AD, maybe even the director themselves. So you're already interacting with someone who could potentially cast you. So right off the bat, attitude at the door and be ready to work with everyone you come in contact. So can you collaborate? Are you polite? Are you respectful of other people's time? Um, Anything along that lines of collaboration, again, starts when you walk in the door. How well you interact with the people that are all waiting, not interact, but like being polite toward the people that you're interacting with while you're auditioning. Again, directors see all of this. Everybody involved in the entire crew sees all of this, and not in like a big brother is watching way, but we all have to work together. So we all we want a vibe. We want the vibes to be good. And if they aren't in the audition room, then you know they aren't going to be good any other way. So that's obviously then rolls into, are you present and listening? Can you adjust on the spot? I know sometimes auditions change, sometimes things change during the audition, sometimes you get cold reads, sometimes you end up in a tiny little room when you thought you would be in a bigger room, but we kind of have to roll with the punches again, especially with community theater. And, and ultimately, so then we'll get into the bigger picture, which I kind of think that I was going into. So the first thing when I said about people kind of interacting with you the moment you walk in the door is especially a lot of pieces, the ensemble potential, how well all of you interact, how well you play off of each other. Sometimes I know that directors will do improv despite the fact that their show has no improv. And I know there are some actors who absolutely hate improv. And there are some actors who absolutely love it, and it can go either way. But I think it also shows a director what an actor is willing to kind of do on the fly. So, and maybe with other people that are also working on the fly, and you're all here for the same thing. I mean, you're competing against each other, but again, realistically, in the grand scheme of the world, we're building our community here. So you're trying not to compete against each other so much as work with each other to get the best out of each other. And that's sort of the ensemble potential of what the director's looking for during an audition. So the director is going to see, how well if sometimes you have to read for the same part over and over, are you handling that well? Are you going to get crabby over it? A lot of that is it's so important, especially when there's smaller shows. Cast chemistry. Obviously, if there's 2 days of auditions, which a lot of groups have, so if there's 2 days of auditions, that's where a lot of times it will happen during callbacks. You'll notice that a director will have you read with this person for one scene and this person for a different scene, and maybe have these two people read again and this person read with 5 different people. And a lot of that happens during callbacks because during the auditions, you've already gotten the director's attention. And now at this point, they need to we're going to say we had 100 people audition because that would be amazing. So they're from those 100 people, they're going to narrow it down to, let's say, 25 people that they think could possibly take this 5-person show. And with those 25 people, that's really where cast chemistry comes into it. From if we roll back kind of to the actors aspect of it a little bit, and I'm going to do that a little bit over and over, and I apologize for that. But another tip I like to give people when you're coming into an audition, and I am not, despite how well I'm doing on this camera, I am not normally an outgoing person, but I sort of pretend to be one during auditions because I know we're all kind of feeling the same way as an actor. So I like to introduce myself to someone else who looks like maybe they're by themselves. So at least you have someone who you can sort of create that little bond with and have a moment, and there's someone who's rooting for you and you're rooting for someone, and it sort of makes auditions a little easier to kind of have someone there along for the ride. And there are times where you'll go to theaters and everyone will know each other and you won't know a soul, and that is great. And I guarantee you that there's someone there who could potentially reach out and the two of you could start talking, and it's a great way to meet people, and that's all part of the bigger picture with cast chemistry. Growth over perfection. I can tell you that cold reads, some people hate them, some people love them. Cold reads for on a director's view are a great way to find growth over perfection. I personally prefer cold reads because I think it gives people a chance to give you an idea. And then maybe when I, as a director, maybe I would talk about it and kind of give a little bit of direction. Not a lot, but sort of set the tone for the scene and see where they go with that, rather than them having a polished, crisp monologue and exactly what's going on with this scene. I would rather see their interpretation. I also, in general, as a director, I involve the actor's interpretation of a role because I think that they're as invested in this part as I am. So I always take actor feedback. So I think at an auditions, it's just as important to allow a little bit of that actor feedback. And you can almost do that by allowing for some of that growth to be like, here's this, and then we'll tone it a little bit and then we'll tighten it up, and then look at that, in just 3 scenes we've managed to see how you have changed this character just very easily. And I apologize, I have twin 12-year-olds and they are very boisterous, so there's a good possibility you could hear them in the background. But it was air
I don't hear
conditioning.
anything, but that's all right.
Okay, good. Because my office isn't air conditioned, so I just have a window unit, so it's very loud. So it was that or them
Yeah,
occasionally. So, and
we have a
finally,
Rode ice
obviously,
machine, so yeah,
oh, good, good. Okay, so everybody can appreciate that. But is
yeah.
the energy and respect in the room? Like I said, everyone, every single person, especially in community theater, is a volunteer. So even just as a human being, you should already be kind and respectful to the, sort of the other people you meet, but especially it's like a job interview. It starts the second you walk in that door. And I fully feel as a director, if you are giving that positive energy and respect to the room anyway, you're going to get it back. So hopefully it isn't even an issue, but just in general, just focusing on the positive vibes helps.
Meg, where do you stand on like the difference between maybe a monologue that is prepared and a cold read, or even a prepared read, as
So
a
I
from the director's point of view?
Right. So as a director, I understand it can be a little nerve-wracking as actors to do cold reads. And I also understand that it is an accessibility issue. And I would like to think that as a director, maybe hopefully give that vibe out that if it is an accessibility issue, I absolutely would never want anybody to worry about that. Um, but ver so for professionals especially, a monologue is an amazing thing to have because for a professional, you can see what they can do with just themselves in that moment. But we know, I mean, none of us are doing monologues for our shows. We're not doing they're going to interact with other people. So I really like sort of that cold read, not prepared. I also have noticed if everybody's kind of in that same boat, you sort of get that whatever it is where I'm the bad guy and they all kind of gang up together to form a bond against me. I think that, and not even in like that negative a way, but I do think that they kind of bond in that we have no clue what's going on. Let's go with this.
Yeah. Yeah, as you know, for me, like I prefer years ago I did an audition, and the director, it was cold reads, but the director had readers that were there that were part of his production
Nice.
crew. And
Okay.
so I was reading with somebody who had read this part over and over and over again. So every person in that audition room got the same audition. That's always been something that's kind of like nerve-wracking when you go into a cold read, like who am I going to read with, you know?
Right.
Especially like when you're in community theater and you're like, okay, like I know everybody in this room, who do I want to read with? And I remember there was a show that we auditioned for together, and um, during the callbacks, I was sitting back and I'm like, okay, all right, I definitely like. I'm like, who do I hope I can read with? Who do I hope I can read with? And
Yes.
so that's always that's an option that I think not a lot of people kind of take advantage of. It's something that I decided years ago to exclusively do because I think it benefits, because it's that cold read can be very daunting even if you have a time to prepare it, but
Right.
and you don't know, like I said, you don't know who you're going to get. Like, it's, you could get somebody who's great, or you could get somebody who's super nervous and panics, and then you're not your best. So
Right.
That's also another really great option for a director to, for that. And so that's that's another option. And like I said, I'm a huge fan. But I agree, like having a monologue, and we'll get to that in a second, but having that monologue in your back pocket is such a pivotal thing. All right, well, let's move
Yes.
on to some top audition mistakes. Um, and Meg, we can maybe we'll ping pong these, and I'll do one and you do one.
Okay.
Um,
Perfect.
so I think one of the biggest mistakes that you can make personally, for me, one of the biggest mistakes is you over rehearsing, trying too hard or not reading enough. It's such a delicate balance of how much do you read what you're about to read, and how much do you just try and go in fresh and give it. Um, you don't want to come across too prepared, because I feel like as an actor, I don't want that director to think like I have a vision, and I'm going to
Mm,
be very focused in on my vision. And you don't want to think about it too much. Like, gosh, what is this character thinking? So over rehearsing, and just having that, having your preparedness is just such a delicate balance.
mm. So going over time, that sort of falls into like the respect for the people that you are there to work with and the other people around you. There are some places where I know for a fact, like people say 90-second monologue, but nobody's sitting there with a timer. So some people are like, okay, I could get away with a 2-minute one. And then next thing you know, people are like up there for 5 minutes, and it's sort of not that that ever happens, but you know what I mean? So definitely it is something not 2 seconds, nobody's going to scream at you, swear, on the director's end. But definitely, if you're clearly going over the time, it's something that is noticeable to everybody on that panel.
Yeah. Next up, I would say apologizing mid audition. For me, that's always a little bit of a pet peeve, and it kind of tells me what you're going to get from an actor. Never apologize. If you mess up, just keep going.
Hmm.
Start over with the line. If you're mid line, if you flub the beginning of a line, you can always start that line over, take a breath, and try the line again. But don't apologize, right? Like, you're not expected to be perfect. You're never going to be expected to memorize all of the lines for an audition side. And if you are, you probably don't want to work with that director. So never audition, never apologize in the middle of your audition. Just keep going. I want to see how you react under pressure. And this is a really great opportunity for you to show me that if you forget your lines on stage, you're going to recover. And so
Hmm.
I think apologizing mid audition is such a huge no no.
Yes. So I'm going to take the last one, which is no eye contact, poor posture. Obviously, there you have to connect with the other people on stage. If you kind of like show up, unless it's in character, which I'll obviously allow poor posture for character, but it does say something about how you look on the stage. Like that's what you will look on the stage for the future, and you need that connection with all. You need your actors to kind of stand out.
Yeah. Going back to what you said earlier, like, you're on the second you walk in that door. Sometimes you're on the second you pull into that parking lot, because you never know who the person next to you may wind up being, or who the
Hmm.
person checking you in may be, or who the person, you don't know who's working on what sometimes. And so, always maintaining eye contact, that type of thing is such a huge thing. So, all right, we'll move along here.
To circle back though, honestly,
Monologue
that's
selection. Oh, yes.
oh no, I
Go
was
ahead.
going to say that should be just everyone's in life. Treat people
Just,
kindly to
yes.
start, but yes,
Yes. Be kind. Yes,
be
absolutely. All
kind.
right, so let's talk monologue selection and preparation. Choosing the right monologue is such a big key thing. You want to make sure that it's appropriate for your age, your demographic, and you're emotionally grounded. If you have some trauma in your life, maybe don't pick a monologue that's going to poke at that trauma. You want to make sure that it's going to fit you and show you off the best. Avoid overdone pieces. We've all seen some of the things, like it's if you've seen it and you remember it, you're probably I always have a rule. I never pick a monologue that's in the first like third of any monologue book, right? I just skip ahead to middle of the way. So connecting with the material, make sure that you are engaged. I think that goes back to if there's a uh, an accent that you might need, connecting with that material, having finding that character and keeping it short. Sometimes there's a time limit. More often than not, it is about 90 seconds. So you want to make sure that that monologue comes in, right within a safe amount of time. Meg, what do you think?
Um, I think that all of those, everything that you said on that, avoid overdone pieces. Also, and I can just is don't use Shakespeare unless you're auditioning for Shakespeare. It tends to
Yes, very
be
much so.
right.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. All right, moving along. There we go. All right, let's talk about some rehearsing tips. Getting ready, you're ready for your audition. Let's talk about it. So,
Okay.
practice with purpose. Um, Make sure that you are when you go over a monologue. For me at least, I know like if I've got my monologue ready, I need to be in the moment. Like I can't just sit there and go over it. Sitting in a chair. I have to walk around, and if my character's got a cell phone, he's holding his cell phone, or something like that. So practice, be purposeful in your practice. Know your character's objective. Sometimes in a monologue, we don't know the outcome. There's I have my first monologue I ever did, I picked a character that I knew nothing about.
Mm.
And so I came at it from one aspect, and then I found out um, it was completely different. And so knowing, and it was a fairly known piece. So most of the people in that room knew exactly that I was just way off, and I wasn't doing it purposefully. Um, Play with the pacing and the tone. You know,
Mm.
uh, I want to see, as a director, I want to see you speed up a little bit. I want to see you, I don't want to see you have the same tone through the whole thing. And your pacing, your tone, your inflection, that is such a key um, aspect of it. Like I want to see the ups and the downs. You've only got 90 seconds to wow me. So, like, show me what you can do in that 90 seconds. And then watch yourself, refine your delivery. Some people will do it in a mirror. Some people will record themselves. Some people will have, I think it's a really great idea if you're working on a monologue to find a friend that you trust that does theater as well, and perform those monologues for each other. Like, hey, like, can we go over our monologues together and just kind of like practice it out and give each other tips and ideas. Um, you aren't going to see everything that you're doing, and they may go, hey, like you're like moving your hands. Should you be doing that? So looking at how you're doing it is just as important as memorizing the lines. Um, Meg? No, what am I supposed to do?
I'm here.
Oh, I see. Okay. No, sorry. Okay. So we have a question, and it kind of goes into this. Do you recommend that auditioners should read the script in advance? This was sent to us by someone named Larry Rink. Thank you,
Right.
Larry, for the question. We appreciate you tuning in. Meg, what do you think about that?
I would say 100%. And this is, I'm not condoning piracy because I myself am an author and firmly believe that you should pay for things, but also that you can almost always find a script online that at least gives you, if you can't read the full script, at least get the full synopsis. I personally, I know a lot of people will go on YouTube and will watch scenes on YouTube and things like that. Personally, I don't think you should try to be anyone other than who you think the interpretation of that role is, but I think that understanding what the character goes through from the start to finish makes a difference in how you're going to present it to people on at your audition.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you have the opportunity to read the script first, you you should. You know, if you're passionate about doing the show, it can never hurt you. I
Mhm.
think, you know, coming at it from the director's point of view and the actor's point of view, like I'm like, I want to know everything about it. And I like if I see somebody comes in and they get it, like I'm like, oh hey, this person like gets it. But you know, I don't expect somebody to come in as a director and know much about the show and the ins and outs, you know. So I don't necessarily think the director is gonna knock you down if you don't know a ton about the show. But as far as your performance goes, it can help because if you're,
Mhm.
you know, if you're reading, I auditioned once for a show and I didn't know that the character I was auditioning for was the bad guy. And so, you know, I gave a different performance. Now it worked out well for me in that, you know, that's kind of what they were looking for. But, um, you know, maybe if I had known I was the bad guy, I would have come at it differently. You know,
Right.
I don't know for certain, but, um, you know, it wound up working out in a good way, but it could have bit me in the butt and I could have, you know, come in and just, they're like, well, that's not anything at all like what we're looking for. So, and then Noel, I hope I pronounced that right, Noel or Noel, wants to know, can we assume that auditions for Tracy Jones will be cold reads?
That is correct. That is the plan. We have the sides ready to go. So yes, they will be. But again, I'm very nice. They're not going to be, um, I don't expect anybody to be word for word perfect. And like I said, I think cold reads give you an opportunity as an actor to maybe try things with on the fly rather than a little bit more prepared. So yes, that is what we're going for. Oh, look, you did pronounce it correctly, Ken.
Hey, look at me. All
Hey,
right. Well, cold reads and callbacks leads us to our next section, cold reads and callback tips.
cold
Meg, why
reads and
don't you, yeah, do you want to kind of handle this
yeah,
here? We'll move on to the next slide.
sure thing.
And if you want to
So
take it away here.
I will take it away. So for cold reads, and this is Theater 101, so I don't want to pretend like anybody's dumb, but just in case you aren't aware, cold reads are when you show up at an audition and you have not seen the script exactly what the director is asking for ahead of time. So, like Larry had asked, if recommending that auditioners should read the script in advance for strategies, read ahead when possible. And again, when possible, as the director who knows people are coming in with cold reads, I would never hold it against someone who did not read, was not able to read the whole script. Obviously, that's not something that I take into complete account when I'm doing auditions. But if it is possible, it just helps you as an actor have a better idea. And I know if you even glance at there's a couple of monologues, you can kind of see what's going on in different things in the script, give you an idea of where you should go with maybe trying something. Um, let punctuation guide your phrasing. So, and I know it's very easy to like rush through the sentence as you're reading it aloud, as you're acting it out. But if there's a question mark at the end, then it's a question. So it helps when you're asking if there's an exclamation point, it helps. And I know, and it's something that I notice as an actor when people do continue to do it. If there's that little dash, the sentence is cut off. But I love when an actor does the thing where they don't, where they just keep going with the line until they get cut off, especially in cold reads, because then the person is like, the next person you could see, like, should I cut them off or not? And figuring out where to bring that in. And I think that's a great chance for two actors to work together. Making a bold choice. I cannot stress this enough. As a director, I'm sure you've heard this before, Ken, in shows we've done together, but you can always bring an actor down. It is so much harder to elevate the act, to bring the actor up levels. So if you come in and you, like Ken did, do a British accent, or your friend, do a British accent, do something that maybe isn't necessarily in the script, but it's something that you're like, yes, this character would do. The director's going to remember that. Maybe it wasn't exactly what the director predict or imagined, but it's also very easy to tell as a director when someone is making a choice, and it's very easy. It's a very much appreciated, I should say, from a director. And finally, staying engaged throughout, maybe in the cold read in that section, you only have one line in the script. So maybe you're getting bored and reading ahead, and your character still is reacting to stuff on stage, but it's very easy to maybe get involved in what's in front of you and rather than what's going on in front of you. So following along, but also still acting because that's what you're there for kind of really helps.
Yeah, I think if you're in the middle of a scene, I would rather see you interacting in the scene than looking ahead for your next line. I would much rather you mess up that next line as a director than like and see you being part of it than having you like not paying attention. You know, I always love in an audition when you have one person that's like really into it and they're like holding the cup and they'll like hand the cup to the other person and the other person just doesn't know what to do, you know. But then I also sometimes you see them, they're like, oh, and they grab the they'll grab the cup. It's such a great back and forth. So yeah,
Hmm.
staying engaged and making bold choices are big things. So let's talk about callback tips. So
Yes.
callbacks are when the director sees everything they've seen from you, but now they want to see you in some real world opportunities, right? So they're going to give you, more often than not, when you're in a callback, a director is going to give you some direction. And you need to take that direction because they're trying to help you, right? In this instance, the director thinks that you could play this part, right? And now they want to see you play it the way that they want you to play it. So taking those notes, taking that redirection, and if it's completely what you weren't planning to do, just own it and give them what they want. You can always get the part and go back and be like, "Hey, I think I want to do it this way," and see what they do then. But in if you do it in the audition, you will not get the part. Be open to new scene partners. It's awesome if I'm in an audition and I see Meg over there and I'm like, I want to work with Meg. But if I don't get to work with Meg, I can't be, you don't want to be upset about it. You want to be open to it. And that new person is going to bring a new perspective. And maybe you don't get to be with the person you thought you were going to read with, but that might just mean that that person really wasn't the right fit. Maybe this person is the right fit. And so being open to reading with different people is so key, and be just as giving to this person as you would the other person. Directors test your versatility, not your accuracy. So I want to see what you can do as an actor in a scene, right? They want to see if you can bounce back. Can you move? Can you follow the stage directions now? You've had a chance to win us over with what you can do. Now let's see what you can do in the world of the play. I want to see you be versatile in that situation. I don't want to see you just nailing the lines. And no callback never means no chance, right? I think that's a key thing. Like so often people think, well, I didn't get the callback. And in a lot of instances it does work out that way, but if you do not get a callback, it doesn't mean that you didn't get the part. It just means that I didn't need to see you. Maybe you weren't in the running, or maybe you were in the running, but it was like, well, I think I just really need to see this guy. As a director, I'm not going to waste my time. If I know this guy's good and they're great and they've got the part, if I know she's going to be perfect for this character, I don't necessarily need to waste her time and bring her in. Now sometimes I do because I want to see with other people, but just because you don't get a callback truly does not mean that you don't have a chance.
And we're
All
also
right,
talking
moving
like you and
along.
I, yes, I know RCP usually does smaller shows, but I can say wholeheartedly for larger ensemble like musicals, that is also very much true. A no callback does not mean you did not get a part.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always, you just never know. All right,
Hmm.
let's talk self-care, nerves, and confidence. Um, so managing your nerves, taking deep breaths, centering yourself, drinking some water, giving yourself, if you have a ritual, if you have things that you want to, that you normally do, like make sure that you take care of those things to keep yourself centered. Focus on your connection. And that means the people in the room. That means the people that you're going to be on stage with. That means every single person that you're going to meet. Focus on the room itself. Don't just sit in the corner with your friends and only talk to them. Make a community. That's what people want to see. As a director, that's what I want to see, that you can get along with everybody, that you can work with everybody. So managing that connection is huge. Accept your nerves. Like, you're gonna get nervous. Like, it happens to everyone. And people that say they don't get nervous, they either don't realize that they get nervous and they think that it's just whatever, or they're lying to themselves. You get nervous. Um, it is a human condition that none of us are immune from. So accept that maybe you will get nervous, and just find ways to work through that. What is going to help you, um, manage that? And then if you have a pre-audition ritual, you should stick to it. If you don't have one, maybe think about it. Maybe there's something that grounds you. I have a pre-show ritual that I like to do. And from time to time, I've been like, oh, you know what? Let me do my pre-show ritual before I go into an audition to get myself in a good headspace. Um, it's worked a couple of times. I can't say that it's my best option, but I think that can be very successful in helping out. Any other suggestions for managing nerves, Meg?
No, I agree with the breathe and center, especially for a monologue. I think taking a deep breath and letting it out and then beginning is very important. I think that even as an actor, as a director, that it's a good time to become the character, breathe the character in, and that sort of helps. But
Yeah,
agreed.
absolutely. Excellent. All right. Confidence comes from knowing your piece, trusting your instincts, being ready, not being robotic, and letting go and staying present. If you remember those four things, that will give you the basis to walk into an audition with some confidence, with some commanding demeanor, and it's going to allow you, as a director, as a producer, as an assistant director, as a actor, it's going to allow you to give your best self in that situation.
Mhm.
Next slide here. All right, so let's recap really quickly here. Okay, so auditions are introductions, they are not exams. Directors want connection, not perfection. Preparation shows, and so does your presence. You belong in the room. Uh, I think that goes for anytime you're in an audition, anytime you're in a rehearsal, you belong there. You have just as right to be in that audition as every other person there. And you have a gift to bring, and maybe it's not to that show, but everybody has a gift to bring. So you belong in the room, and keep learning and practicing. You're not going to get cast in every show that you audition for. You are going to get some rejection. Some of that rejection is going to be difficult, but it is always a learning opportunity. It is always good practice. I always tell people, just audition.
Mhm.
I've had people that, text and say, hey, like, email and say, hey, I don't really fit this part, but I kind of wanted to audition for your show. And then I looked and I realized I didn't fit the part. Come and audition. You may waste my time, but you may just not waste my time. You know what I mean? As a director, I would much rather have somebody go, hey, like, I know I'm not really right for the part, but I wanted to see, because you don't know what the director wants, right? Just because it's on the
Mhm.
page in the book doesn't necessarily mean that that's exactly what the director's looking for. Maybe they want somebody who's younger. Maybe they're going to go older with the roles. Maybe they're going to go younger. You never quite know. So it is always a chance to practice and learn. And let your next audition, this is just some words to live by. Let your next audition be bold, let it be kind, and let it be uniquely you. Any last words, Meg, on auditioning and auditions, and words of wisdom from you?
Let me see. The best thing that I can tell you is that in not the same way, but in a way, the director is just as nervous as you are. They're nervous that everyone, I mean, they're nervous in a different way, but everyone's working with nerves. So just remember, we're all aware of, at least I know for me, a lot of the directors I've worked with have also been actors. So every one of us have been on the other side. We've auditioned for shows and we know what it's like to get up there and to put yourself out there. And it's a really It's a crazy thing when you think about it, how wild we as actors are that we even put ourselves through it to begin with. So, as
Hmm.
a director, I myself and I know Ken and a bunch of the directors that, I love and appreciate all know exactly, like, we understand the nerves and we understand the just what it feels like to go through an audition. And I personally want to be the person that you look at and has the biggest smile on the face or the biggest sad face, depending on what the scene is about. But I am going to be the person at that table that is, I want you to be as amazing as you possibly can be. And that's all I want. So, and I'm assuming here, but I know a lot of directors across the board just want you to have fun, to do great, and to like take this as an opportunity to put yourself out there. And that's all we care about. We're not there to judge you harshly. We're not there to rank whether or not you paused long enough at that thing or not. We just are there to build a community.
Yeah, those are great words of wisdom. We have a couple of questions. We're going to get to those in a follow-up podcast. But thank you for the
Yay.
questions, and thank you to everybody that tuned in. That is a wrap on the fundamentals, but this conversation is just getting started. Our upcoming Theater 101 podcast episode is going to delve a little bit deeper into that. And next month is our next Theater 101 workshop. This train gets rolling along. It is going to be a tech-based workshop. And I am absolutely thrilled, to have a fine gentleman by the name of Chuck Gadaris. I always pronounce his last name wrong. Is that right, Meg? Gadaris? I
Oh,
think that's
I
right.
don't, I just read it. I don't ever
You
say
don't know
it.
how to pronounce it
So
either? I don't ever,
I,
yeah, I never know how to pronounce it. Chuck
he's
is a
wonderful.
brilliant, he's brilliant mind. He knows tech like you wouldn't believe, and he's going to talk about some tech related things. And that's going to be our next workshop. That'll be on August 19th. And then we have a couple more coming up after that. So stay tuned, and we have some great information coming along. Thank you for joining us. We truly appreciate it. Remember, auditions are just the beginning of the journey, and you've got this. We thank you guys so much, and we'll see you next time. Thank you once again, Meg. I truly
Yes.
appreciate your help today. And
Thank you for
if you
having
have
me.
any other information, if you want any other information about the Tracy Jones auditions, they are on our website, rosedaleCommunityPlayers.com. You can also find them on our Facebook page, and I believe through our Instagram page as well. They're next Monday, the 21st.
Uh-huh.
Yes, the 21st, the 22nd, and the 23rd, 24th,
24th is
24th.
callbacks. 24th is
24th is callback.
callbacks.
That's right. So yes, yeah. So 21st, yeah, it's on the screen there. 21st, 22nd, and if you haven't had a chance to work with Rosedale Community Players, I highly, encourage you to come be a part of our group.
Yes.
Somebody once told me before I got involved that RCP stands for really cool people. I thought it was the cheesiest, dumbest thing I'd ever heard. And then I started working with Rosedale Community Players, like, oh, I get it. Yeah, I get it.
Yes.
So you can see the
Yes.
information there on your screen, rosedaleCommunityPlayers.com. Once again, thank you, Meg. Good luck with Tracy Jones. I can't wait to see how it
Thank
turns out.
you.
And we're going to keep this conversation going. So if you check out our Spotify, we will have another podcast coming soon with Meg and I just talking a little bit more about auditions. So thank you all so very much for tuning in tonight, and we will see you again next time. Have a wonderful evening.